The smell of sizzling onions and fresh tortillas filled the small alley where her food truck sat parked, its faded blue paint chipped with years of wear. Maria wiped the sweat off her forehead, her hands moving fast as she stuffed a taco with grilled chicken and passed it to a waiting customer. The lunch rush was relentless, and she didn't have a second to pause. Her food truck was more than a business. It was survival. Rent was overdue. Her little brother's school fees were piling up, and every night she prayed she could keep the truck running just one more day. The line outside her truck stretched longer than usual. Word of her tacos had spread among office workers in the nearby financial district, and for once, she was too busy to worry about how little she'd slept the night before. She didn't look at faces anymore, she just focused on the orders. To her, every person in line was the same, hungry, impatient, and ready to leave as soon as they were fed. She couldn't afford to linger on anyone, not even when she noticed an expensive tailored suit standing just a few steps away. 3 carne asada, extra salsa, someone called from the window. Maria nodded, working fast. Her brown hair was tied back in a messy bun, strands sticking to her sweaty face, but her eyes stayed sharp. She didn't see the man step closer, didn't hear his steady breathing as he studied her every move. She had no idea that the millionaire CEO of one of the city's biggest companies was standing in her line, waiting patiently like everyone else. When she finally reached him, she barely looked up. "Order?" she asked, her voice flat, already moving toward the grill. There was a pause, then a low, familiar whisper. "Still remember me?" Her hand froze. The spatula clattered against the grill. Slowly, she lifted her eyes and her heart stopped. The man standing in front of her wasn't just another customer. It was Daniel Carter, the boy she had known years ago, back when life was different, back when she still believed in dreams. Maria's breath caught. Memories flooded her. A small high school cafeteria, shared laughter over packed lunches, late-night study sessions when they both swore they'd escape their broken worlds. He had been her best friend, her secret first love, the one who left without a goodbye when his scholarship carried him across the country. She hadn't seen him in almost a decade. "Daniel," she whispered, her throat tight. His eyes softened, the same deep blue that once made her teenage heart race. But now there was something else in them. Maturity, weight, the quiet power of a man who had conquered the world. "It's been a long time, Maria," he said gently. She didn't respond right away. Customers were waiting. She forced herself to turn back to the grill, her hands moving mechanically. "What do you want to order?" she asked, her voice brisk, guarded. A faint smile tugged at his lips. "Whatever you recommend, I trust you." The words hit her like a wave. He remembered. He used to say the same thing back in school when she'd bring him food from her mother's kitchen because his family could barely afford groceries. They had both been poor then, dreaming of a way out. But now, he looked like he belonged in a world of penthouses and private jets, while she was stuck in a rundown food truck barely holding together. When she handed him his tacos, their fingers brushed. A jolt of electricity shot through her, but she pulled back quickly, her chest tight. She couldn't afford this, not now. Daniel didn't move. Instead of stepping aside to eat, he lingered near the truck. Customers behind him shifted impatiently, but he didn't seem to notice. His eyes never left Maria. Finally, when the rush began to thin, he stepped closer again. "You're still the same," he said softly, "focused, strong." Maria bit her lip, fighting the lump in her throat. "People don't stay the same, Daniel. We grow up, we break, we survive." His expression shifted, sadness flickering across his face. "And yet you're still here, cooking, working harder than anyone else. I always knew you would be." She wanted to snap at him, to tell him he had no right to waltz back into her life with words that cut deeper than he realized. But then she remembered the night he left. He had promised he'd come back. She had waited, and he never did. "Why are you here?" she asked, her voice trembling. Daniel hesitated, his jaw tightening. "Because I owe you more than you know." Maria frowned. You don't owe me anything." "Yes, I do," he said firmly. "You were there when no one else was. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. I carried that with me, Maria. Every step, every fight, every deal, I remembered your words." Her chest ached. She remembered, too. Nights when she told him he was destined for greatness, that he could rise above the poverty they were born into. She hadn't realized he'd actually listened. "And yet you left," she whispered. His silence was heavy. The truth hung between them. "I didn't mean to hurt you," he said finally. "I thought if I focused, if I made it, I could come back for you. But then the years passed, and I was too much of a coward to face what I'd done." Tears stung Maria's eyes, but she blinked them away. "Well, congratulations, you made it, and I'm still here selling tacos to survive." Daniel's gaze hardened with determination. "Not for long, I want to help you." Maria's pride flared. "I don't need your charity." "It's not charity," he said quickly. "It's recognition. You're talented, Maria. Your food, your spirit, it's worth more than this truck. You could own restaurants, chains even. Let me invest in you." Her hands trembled. The offer was tempting, too tempting. But fear clawed at her heart. What if this was just pity? What if he disappeared again, leaving her shattered once more? "No," she said firmly, turning away. "I've learned not to depend on anyone, not even you." Daniel's jaw tightened, but he didn't push. Instead, he left his business card on the counter. "If you change your mind, call me, please." For days, Maria avoided the card. She worked long hours, pushing herself until exhaustion blurred her vision. But every time she glanced at the tiny white rectangle, something inside her stirred. Memories of his laughter, his encouragement, the way he believed in her dreams. One evening, as she counted the meager earnings, her little brother, Javier, looked up from his homework. "Maria, why don't you ask for help? You do so much alone." His innocent words broke her resolve. That night she called Daniel. The next weeks were a whirlwind. Daniel showed up not as a CEO, but as the boy she once knew, supportive, kind, patient. He introduced her to investors, guided her through business plans, and most importantly, reminded her of the fire she used to carry inside. Their bond reignited, stronger this time, forged by years of struggle and regret. Maria's food truck grew into a small restaurant, then another. People loved not just the food, but the story of the girl who never gave up. One evening, after closing her first restaurant, Daniel stood with her on the balcony, the city lights glittering below. "I never stopped thinking about you," he admitted, his voice raw. "I don't want to waste any more time." Maria's heart pounded. She saw the sincerity in his eyes, the boy she loved and the man he had become. She smiled through tears. "Then don't." When he pulled her into his arms, it wasn't the embrace of a millionaire saving a poor food truck girl. It was two souls, finally finding their way back after years of being lost. Maria's story spread across the city, not as a tale of wealth and success, but of resilience, forgiveness, and love. She had learned that sometimes life breaks you so it can rebuild you stronger. And sometimes the people who leave are the ones who return, when you're finally ready to believe again. Her journey wasn't perfect, but it was hers. And for the first time in years, she looked at the future not with fear but with hope. Because she remembered, and so did he.